Have you ever walked through a beautiful neighborhood and wondered if the people behind those manicured lawns are actually drowning in stress? You are definitely not alone. When most individuals look at their financial success for the first time, they focus entirely on the roof over their heads rather than the balance in their bank accounts. Big driveways, granite countertops, and extra bedrooms look amazing on social media, but hidden behind those heavy front doors usually sits a mountain of hidden debt and zero liquidity. Now, if you are like the typical homeowner, you have been told that buying the biggest house you can afford is the ultimate investment, but you might not actually realize how that asset is draining your life force. Perhaps you feel the squeeze every time the property tax bill arrives or when the air conditioner decides to quit in mid-July. Maybe that one neighbor who just bought a boat makes you feel like you are falling behind. Either way, you are likely questioning if owning this massive piece of real estate is a dream come true or just a gilded cage designed to keep you working until you are a ghost. Well, here is a reality that might shock you. Your home is not an investment in the traditional sense. It is a consumption item that happens to cost more than anything else you will ever buy. It is actually a massive hole where your potential wealth goes to die, and mastering the balance between your lifestyle and your liquidity could represent the gap between true freedom and a life of quiet desperation because you thought a zip code was a retirement plan. My name is Noah, and I spend far too much time analyzing debt cycles, asset allocation, and the reasons most people would rather go broke looking rich than actually be wealthy. If you want to learn how to manufacture wealth without being a slave to a mortgage, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video if it helps you clarify your financial future. Here's what most folks miss about the American dream. The typical professional will spend decades chasing a larger house, and every upgrade forces them into a higher bracket of expenses that look nothing like their initial budget. One property might have high maintenance while another has insane insurance premiums. Some neighborhoods have high HOA fees, while others require constant landscaping. Yet, in almost every scenario, that monthly mortgage payment is waiting for you like an unshakable shadow. The reason this trap is so common isn't because people are foolish. It is because real estate is the only investment that people get emotionally attached to. Think of it as a beautiful painting that you have to pay $1,000 a month just to keep on your wall. Instead of generating income, it consumes it. But before we explore why this is so dangerous, let me ask you a quick question. When you visualize a rich person, do you see the house they live in or the assets that pay for their life? You are likely thinking of mansions and swimming pools. These are not assets. They are the rewards for having assets. Well, the truth is that many people jump straight to the reward before they have the engine. When you lock all your cash into equity, you are grabbing a heavy chain and wrapping it around your neck. Now, does this sound too cynical? Why shouldn't you want a nice place to live? These questions are vital because they explain why the house-rich trap is the silent killer of the middle class. Your home is essentially a vault for your money, but the problem is you don't have the key. Just as a locked safe doesn't help you buy groceries, home equity doesn't pay for your kids' tuition or your retirement. This data helps you spot the difference between looking wealthy and being secure. Here's the fascinating part. The obsession with homeownership is fueled by a massive industry of lenders and agents who need you to believe that bigger is always better. There is a specific narrative that tells you renting is throwing money away, but they never talk about the dead money sitting in your walls. Think of it like a bank account that only lets you withdraw money if you sell your bed and move out. To survive this trap, you must satisfy strict rules of your own. You have to be honest about your true costs, possess a clear understanding of opportunity cost, and show actual liquid savings in your reports. You also must resist the urge to buy for status to ensure you aren't just a temporary trend. This rigorous honesty is exactly why liquid investors have historically dominated. You aren't just betting on a single plot of land. You are keeping your capital ready to move toward the best opportunities. It is like having a nimble scout finding new trails, but instead of a map, the prize is your ability to walk away from a job you hate. But there is a detail about real estate that might catch you off guard. Even though your house price might go up, the costs of ownership are guaranteed. The more expensive a property becomes, the more it moves the needle for your monthly stress. So when a roof leak occurs, it carries your anxiety much higher than a simple repair should. This means the overhead of a large home actually drives a huge portion of your life choices. We are talking about the inability to take risks or start a business. When your house owns you, you lose. Now, having your money concentrated in one building isn't a strategy. These are structures that require constant feeding of taxes, repairs, and interest. They have survived market cycles, but they don't produce a dividend. Investing purely in equity is essentially betting that someone else will pay even more for your golden cage in 20 years. But here's the part that many banks won't tell you because they can't charge you interest on money you don't borrow. A simple index fund has a track record of growth that makes home appreciation look like a snail's pace. For decades, the stock market has beaten the average home's value increase, and it doesn't require you to paint the walls or fix the plumbing. Think about that reality. You have people working 80 hours a week just to pay for a house they are only in for 8 hours a day. They get stressed to pay for a guest room that stays empty 90% of the year. And yet, the majority of them continue this cycle year after year. It is like a marathon runner carrying a heavy backpack while wondering why they are losing the race. The data is quite embarrassing for the home is the best investment crowd. Research shows that after inflation and maintenance, most homes barely break even. That means if you handed your money to a simple diversified fund, you would have given yourself a better result than if you had just sat in a big house and hoped for the best. How is that possible? How can a risky stock beat safe real estate? The answer is found in the concept of opportunity cost. While that sounds like a dry textbook term, the idea is simple. Every dollar you put into an oversized mortgage is a dollar that isn't earning compound interest elsewhere. When you commit to a high payment, you lose the ability to buy low when the market dips because your cash is already spoken for. It is like trying to catch a flight while your feet are stuck in wet cement. Someone is going to get to the destination before you even get moving. This leads us to a core truth of building wealth. It isn't just about what you own, it is about how fast you can access it. One of the biggest wealth killers is being illiquid when a crisis hits. When you are house rich, you might have $500,000 in equity, but if you lose your job, you can't pay for bread with a brick. That math is terrifying. If you have a massive home, you pay massive taxes. But when the market turns, you are paying for a liability that you can't easily sell. You are basically living in a bank's asset while they charge you for the privilege of underperforming the market. These costs also compound. That money taken for interest isn't just gone. It is the loss of all the future freedom that money would have bought. Over 30 years, an oversized house can literally cost you millions in lost stock market gains. This is why the most successful financial minds tell everyone to keep housing costs low. They even show examples of people who rented and invested the difference, ending up far wealthier than those who owned their suburban mansions. Even with the tax breaks, the experts get crushed by the sheer weight of maintenance and interest. The beauty of a liquid approach is that it removes the fear of being stuck from the equation. You don't have to worry about a neighborhood declining or a local factory closing. You get a portable system. When the global economy grows, your wealth grows. Over the long haul, liquid assets have shown an incredible ability to pivot and thrive, which leads to consistent gains for you. Let's look at the actual numbers, because this is where the theory becomes a reality. For nearly a century, housing has grown at roughly 3 or 4%. Yes, some years are booms, but the average is low once you subtract the bills. If you invested the extra $2,000 a month you would have spent on a dream home into a fund starting in your 30s, by the time you retire, you would have put in less than $1 million, but your balance could be over $4 million. That extra $3 million didn't come from your house, it came from the power of liquid compounding. This mathematical snowball is the most powerful force in finance. If you start now and just live in a modest place, you could easily end up a multi-millionaire while your neighbors are still arguing over HOA violations. That is the reward for having the courage to be normal while you build your empire. Now, I know 30% of income for housing sounds impossible in today's market, and you are right to feel a bit frustrated when prices are at record highs. But here's the secret. Being house rich is a choice, even if it feels like a requirement. Think of a smaller home as a launch pad for your future. When your costs are low, your monthly investment buys more freedom. When the market eventually recovers, and it always has, those shares you bought instead of a bigger kitchen become the fuel for your early retirement. Successful investors don't care about a forever home. They care about forever income. It is like choosing a smaller car so you can afford to go on a trip around the world. But you will still hear critics. Real estate agents will claim you are building someone else's equity if you don't buy the biggest place possible. They will show you complex charts that seem to prove homes always go up. What they won't show you is the impact of property taxes, insurance, and the cost of capital on those gains. Complexity sells because it makes the transaction look like a win-win. But in the world of money, the simplest path is often the most profitable. You have to decide if you want to be the person with the big house or the person with the big bank account. Sometimes, being wealthy means choosing the modest, reliable path. Being house rich isn't a badge of honor. It is just a way to lock up your potential without the benefit of growth or access. Whether you decide to downsize or just stop the upgrades, the key is staying liquid. The best strategy is the one that gives you options at 50, not the one that leaves you with nothing but a pile of expensive wood and stone. If this helped you rethink your mortgage, please give this a like for Prime Noah Invests, and let me know in the comments if you are house rich or cash flow king. See you in the next one.